My name's Morgan Paar. I have dyslexia, and my father had dyslexia too. And what's interesting is when he was growing up in the, what would it be, the 60s, they didn't diagnose people for dyslexia, and he was considered dumb. He graduated bottom of his class, barely got out of high school, and they just thought he was dumb. And when I was in school, my first memory of being diagnosed was in 4th grade, and I had to go to special reading classes. And it was always a problem for me. I remember when I was a kid, the teachers made us read in class, and I got really nervous, and I was, terrified because I had trouble reading. But then finally I was diagnosed, and I would get pulled out of class once a week to go to the special reading teacher. And it was embarrassing, and the kids picked on me, but I couldn't imagine where I would be today if I didn't do that then. Yeah, growing up was tough with other kids. I mean, bullying is still in the news today, right? Kids are nasty. They're gonna make fun of you. They'll find a reason to make fun of you, and that was my thing. It was like, I'm dumb. I can't read. When I took tests, I had a teacher sit next to me and make sure I could read everything in the test. And then I remember in the summers, I would go to a local college and take these special reading classes. And honestly, I did not read, I think I read one book in all of high school. Like, I remember getting out of a class because they were going to read like Moby Dick or something, which, by the way, is now my favorite book. But I looked at the size of that book and I was like, I can't even do it. I can't do it in a year. I can't get through this book. So I switched out of that class and went into another English class. And this was high school. I mean, it wasn't college. It was hard to do, but I did it because I was so terrified. But after years of going to this college in the summer and teachers during the year, the school year, I learned how to read, and I still didn't have a passion for it until I was in college, and I read the graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns, I think it was. I haven't read it in a while. Batman comic book, basically. And I just fell in love with reading. I was like, I love to read. And I read a lot of comic books, and I eventually got around to reading some novels and some books. And like I said, like now some of my favorite books, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, like kind of complicated stuff. So that's the difference between my father and I. It's like now we know it's a problem. We know we could fix it to an extent. I still deal with it today, especially with numbers. I mix up numbers, and somebody will say, can you read me that phone number? And I'll look at the page, and I know even going in, it's like there's a chance I'm gonna mix up some of these numbers. But for the most part, I read fine. I think I read a little slower than the average person, but I can read and I enjoy reading. And it's like not even a problem anymore. It's Batman comic books. That opened the door for me. And I think it was such a stigma, it was such a problem with me. Like, I'd look at a book and get scared. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with the written word. But once I got over that, once I realized, I would sit down with a Batman graphic novel and read it cover to cover and then buy more. Then it was like, what? This isn't a problem. This is something I overcame, and it's like I'm not scared. And it's like maybe I will try to read Moby Dick. And all of a sudden I started reading it, and I was like, I can't believe that I was scared of this thing. I love this. I mean, I'm talking about this right now. I'm wondering where my copy of Moby Dick is because I want to read it again. As with any obstacle, you gotta run towards it. Just head on. Just be like, okay. And my father always told me this, and I thought this was really good advice. He said to me, I could hear his words in my head right now. He'd say, son, you're not dumb. You're different. You're different than other students. And dyslexia is a funny thing because you are different. It's harder for you to do some things, but in other ways, it's easier. And I feel like almost everything in life I go about it the backwards way, but that's maybe what being dyslexic is. It might take me twice as long to do something someone else does, but maybe I'll do it, I want to say better, but I'll do it differently. And it will be different, and it will be, unique to me. My advice to someone who knows they have dyslexia, accept that you have it, and just hit it head on and be like, you know what? This is the challenge I have, and figure out a way to read and figure out that reading is fun. And you know, maybe Grapes of Wrath is not for you, maybe it's a Batman comic. But once you get through that barrier, it just all opens up from there.